Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join our webinar today. Really appreciate it. Looks like we got a good group of customers and partners here today to go through the content. So my name is Dan Kenneally. For those that don't know me, I'm a regional vice president for the Redesign group, and I'm responsible for our business operations in the Midwest. On the call with me today, I have Michael Robert. Michael's a senior data protection engineering resource for Dell Technologies and is a subject matter expert in the PowerProtect Backup Services platform that we're going to review today. Quick agenda for today. We want to cover some short slide content at the beginning to review the following topics: importance of cyber resilience, give some details about the Dell PowerProtect Backup Services platform and the advantages it provides for customers today in an environment where really many of our customers are looking to get more operational simplicity out of their data protection solution, as well as a more comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. We're going to cover use cases to show you where this platform can be adopted and give your organization the best competitive advantage in this space. We'll cover some of the details around security strategy, and then we'll really transition into the meat of the presentation, which is the live demo that Michael will deliver. As far as a wrap-up, anyone who's engaged on this webinar today, we can follow up with a more deep dive detail on the platform. Any items we may have missed that are relevant to your organization, we can certainly continue that content on a more individual or small group basis, and we'll ensure that everybody has the contact information of their respective sales team and pre-sales engineering team to continue the discussion where needed. So let's just start off with why we're here. Data protection is now of critical importance to an organization to have a true cyber resilience strategy. So some statistics here from the Global Data Protection Index in 2024. In the past 12 months, organizations, just like the 12 months preceding that, are seeing an increasing number of cyber attacks, and the impact surface is large from a financial, reputational, legal standpoint. But $1.92 million is the average per incident that we are seeing. And the data protection environment is a critical area that's not only under attack, but it's an area that's very important as far as recovery is concerned. So 75% of respondents to this survey said they're concerned their existing data protection solution is not going to allow them to effectively respond to ransomware attacks. 74% are concerned that their backup data could become infected or corrupted, which is what we are seeing with modern ransomware variants, that backups are becoming encrypted, as that's obviously a key area that helps organizations recover and not pay a ransom. 79% of organizations are not very confident their organization can protect all their data in sort of this modern, private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud type operating environment that many organizations are moving towards. And lastly, security is obviously critical when maintaining a modern cloud environment. Now, obviously, that means organizations are driving towards a more highly secure solution in the data protection space. But many of the solutions on the market today that deliver on that promise bring with them a complexity when it comes to operations that's challenging for teams with already thin staffs to manage. So the solution we're talking about today, PowerProtect Backup Services, we feel really meets the promise of operational simplicity in comprehensive security strategy. And we're seeing that pretty widely adopted across our base at Redesign of over 1,400 customers. So the advantage that you get with a solution like this is, number one, it's a SaaS platform. So the deployment is fully managed. There's no hardware or software that the end user has to manage when it comes to their data protection. And the solution stays up to date with the latest features, codes, and security fixes because the patches happen automatically. The burden of the patching falls on the software vendor. to always deliver you an up-to-date platform. It delivers zero trust with access controls with MFA and role-based access, and it is built to meet the security standards that we hear every day as requirements that are coming down from organizations' executive leadership. We need encryption, we need immutable backups, and we need an isolated air gap environment that's all within this platform without any bolt-ons. And then lastly, the data and the control plane for the PowerProtect Backup Services solution is actually isolated from the attack surface. So that allows organizations to be able to maintain a comprehensive strategy from prevention to detection through incident response and still maintain their operations. The solution also includes advanced features today, such as 24/7 continuous monitoring. So having a command center to be able to detect and proactively alert against common threats to help you minimize the blast zone if an attack takes place. Sensitive data governance, so helping maintain compliance requirements for your organization. There's hooks into many different tools in the market, including EDR tools for alerting. Having a solution that accurately and efficiently augments incident response. So giving you visibility into unusual data activities and logs that help determine where an issue might have taken place and help a forensics team kind of figure out what's going on more quickly with a ransomware attack. And then having automated workflows is critical to the operational simplicity of the platform. So in general, you're getting something that's hardened from a security standpoint. It's comprehensive in terms of the areas that an organization is truly looking to protect against. And in order to get all these advanced features, you're doing so with this simple to manage SaaS platform that has a lot of automation and hooks built into it. Now, from a use case perspective, it targets everything from endpoints to SaaS applications. A big area that we see this adopted is protecting M365, Salesforce, and Google Workspace, all the way through hybrid workloads, databases, VMware workloads, Hyper-V workloads, and also workloads that natively reside in the public cloud. Again, and I already touched on this a bit, it's a comprehensive approach from threat monitoring and event analysis to incident analysis, all the way to confirming a breach, understanding the scope of the breach and containing it, to taking their necessary steps for recovery and remediation. And then obviously the forensics and notifications allow you to, determine the blast zone, determine the best path forward toward recovery. And just to wrap up here to transition into the demo, simple, SaaS delivered, automated updates, zero management, and a large amount of scale that can be delivered. It's secure by design, which we'll show in the demo. It helps augment and provide a true managed detection and response with 24/7 cloud operations. And then lastly, comprehensive from a recovery standpoint, malware. All right, at this point, we're going to transition into the demo, and I'll pass it over to Michael.
Yep. And once I share my screen here, Dan, I think we did have some audio issues at the end there. I saw someone pop something in the chat, but we should be good. Once I start sharing my screen here, I will turn my camera off. There we go. All right, so let me make sure you guys are seeing my screen okay. Can you guys see that? Okay, cool. So perfect. So kind of like Dan said, I'm gonna hop in right to the meat and potatoes of this because we've only got a short time here. It looks like 20 minutes, right? I want to kind of expand on some of the things that Dan was showing there on the PowerPoint. And then I also want to show some other things kind of inside the platform itself, right? Um, so basically what we see here, right, is the actual dashboard of Apex Backup Services, or sorry, PowerProtect Backup Services once we log into the platform. We're going to see a nice summary of the data protection all the use cases that we have here, like enterprise workloads, endpoints, Microsoft 365. You can even see some Google Workspace and some Salesforce in here as well. If we kind of look down, we look into what's I consider really important here into the cyber resiliency on the summary, showing us any type of security posture, data anomalies, delete requests, any resource scans that had happened. It's important to note also that in terms of simplicity, right, all of these are hyperlinks that can go into that specific use case that we're talking about or what we're trying to accomplish, right? So if we want to look at, dive in specifically without going anywhere, we can look at these specific stats like what exchange is backing up and what amount of OneDrive we're backing up. Same thing here on the how many deletion requests and things along that line. On a quick snippet here on the right, we've got a nice little data governance peek window to see any type of active violations or any non-compliant users. And then the e-discovery shows us in the number of users under legal holds and the custodians that are assigned there. Moving on to critical alerts, right? We've got the cyber resiliency alerts. We'll jump into this when we get into the cyber resiliency security center piece. But this just kind of gives you a peek there, as well as your backup data trend and all of the integrations that we have, right? So I'll mention some of these here, like Splunk and whatnot, and where we integrate. And then the last thing we have here is the cloud status, what regions that we're actually looking at, and we can see that from the dashboard page. So the first thing I always like to do is jump into the cloud settings to show how easy it is to basically configure this from a security standpoint in just a few clicks, right? As Dan mentioned, this is no infrastructure, no need for you to worry about any type of updating, patching, any management of any type of hardware that this is running on. So realistically, whenever you consume this, you basically just get to click in and then set some of these settings up, right? So the first thing is also always showing, multi-factor authentication. We have the ability to utilize different forms of multi-factor authentication, app-based, if it's SMS-based, as well as no multi-factor authentication at all. We also have the ability to configure a single sign-on here for not just the administrators, but if we wanted to have end-user self-service, we can do single sign-on there and give the ability to do that, which is set up in the profiles to, for someone to go and restore Microsoft email or something like that. And then the last piece here is the geofencing configuration, right? What this does is allows us to lock down the platform to specific IP addresses to where we know from a data access point, we don't have to worry about anyone logging into the platform that shouldn't be logging in there. Couple different pieces here, just the access, the administrator management APIs, and then an inactive administrator policy, right? We want to make sure that we don't have inactive administrators just hanging out inside of the platform. The reason that we do that, right, is so we don't have people that are just getting rid of their password or don't have their password and then those get compromised. So kind of showing you when you can make that user inactive. All right, so I'm going to go into manage our administrators to kind of show on top of that what the role-based access looks like. So I'll come down here and pick on myself. As you can see, right, I have an ability to take a look inside of this platform and make sure that the principle of least privilege is always set up, right? Because I'm a cloud administrator, I've got access to everything, right? From a profile management perspective, from a data governance perspective, I can access everything in the platform. But if you had users that needed to be assigned to specific roles, you would be able to do that here inside of the role-based access and build that out for the ability to, like I said, go along that zero trust principle and have that least privilege set up. So before I jump into the security command center, the security center, I do want to jump into Microsoft 365 just to show how simplistic it is to set up Microsoft 365 in the platform. And then from there, how quickly it is to do a backup and a restore, right? Because this lab is already configured, I would have to actually come in here. I would install and then configure. If I did this, I would do a reinstall, but this is just showing what we're protecting from a Microsoft 365 standpoint: Exchange Online, Groups, OneDrive, public folders, SharePoint, and Teams. And then we get all of these little widgets here, these tiles that actually show us, how many users we have, how many shared mailboxes, everything along those lines. But the way that we break this up is into utilizing what's called a profile. And you can look, and I want some people to pay attention here to these profiles that are currently listed because that'll come up in the later part of the demo here. But once we have a profile built out, then what we have is the ability to set up things like the access that we have, the retention that we have, the ability to do, like I said, those self-service restores. So we can look at, top users by storage consumption. I'm pretty high up there on the storage consumption, but when we do that, we can come into like, SaaS applications. We enable our sources that we want to back up for that specific group, and then we can set our retention quickly from there. Once we set our retention, it's important to point out that every single backup inside of PowerProtect Backup Services, it has immutability to the last backup, right? The last snapshot is always going to be unable to be deleted. From there, we can take that a step further and enable data lock. And once we enable data lock, that will prevent any backup from being deleted for the span of the retention. Once you set this, you have to actually go through a process to get this turned off. So we don't like to play with it in the lab necessarily, but just knowing that that's where that data lock feature functionality sits. I'm going to go into a user perspective so I can come pick on myself again. And from here, what we can see is if I check my name off, it's as simple as coming into restore data. And then I have the ability to look at what was actually, restorable. I've got OneDrive and Exchange Online in here. If I came into Exchange Online and say I wanted to go in, maybe do my mail, I know that I deleted something. I can look at my inbox. I know that I deleted something yesterday. Now I can go into a restore. I've got a couple different options on my restore. I can either do to the same user account or to a different user account. And then my other option is the option itself, right? I can do an in-place restore, or I can restore as a copy. This feature, kind of like I said, is a useful feature to say, hey, I deleted something yesterday. I know I needed it. I can come in here and restore only the deleted items, and then I'll be able to quickly do a restore from there. So that's kind of a sneak peek into Microsoft 365 and what that looks like. I do want to jump into the Security Command Center since we've got about 13 minutes here. And this is kind of where the cyber resiliency piece comes into play, right? From the jump, what we're going to see is our dashboard that we land on for the Security Center, right? It's going to show us things like posture security risk, any backup risk that we have, any data access events and data location events, which like the rest of the platform, all of these are actually hyperlinks to go into the specific places that you would want to follow there. We also have the access risk, right? And then kind of diving deeper into that is your threat summary. If we detect any data anomalies, any restore scans that happened, whether they were clean, and then if any threat hunting is going on at the time or if threat hunting was created. So I'm going to jump straight into access events because this kind of shows us the ability to look at a single peek of who's logging into the platform, right? If I look at, maybe the last 30 days, I can see everyone that's logging into the platform from an admin perspective. I can also look at any type of API request, as well as any data access. So I can look and see that Jeff Polo did an admin download out of Google Drive, and I can see everything that happened from a data access standpoint in the platform itself. If we kind of dig deep into data anomalies, this is giving us that ability to set up, pre-configured settings or configured settings into specific workloads to be able to then detect any type of anomaly. So we can see that there are two anomalies, some creation, some deletion. There's one impacted resources. There were two there. If I toggle over to settings here, this is where I can then actually edit these settings like I was talking about before, where we can say, okay, for endpoints in OneDrive or for file servers, NAS and VMware, we can say how many snapshots do we want to look at. We can scan for the amount, for the baseline there. We can only generate an alert if the file change exceeds X amount, right? So it is recommended, right, to leave these to avoid any type of false positives there. But you do have the ability to customize this yourself. But realistically, all this is looking for is looking for anomalies inside of the source itself, right? If we dig into that actual source, we can see that there was a creation of a bunch of files, and there was 2,565 impacted files on yesterday, right? From there, you can then download those logs and see what happened. You can quarantine this snapshot or this actual copy if you want to, giving you the ability to kind of stop that in its tracks, knowing that something bad is happening inside of the platform. Another piece here is the rollback actions, and this is really important in a sense of if someone does get access to the platform itself and something gets deleted from the platform, what do we do in that case? Well, what we can do in that case is rely on rollback actions, setting our rollback window in order to be able to stop things from happening or catch things that may have happened and then roll those actions back. So if I come into profiles here, I can see right. I had deleted a couple of profiles here, advantaged IICs, this laptop profile, and the reason for deletion was a lab cleanup. If I come in here and roll this back, I can do a rollback action, take a look at that, and then from there, I would be able to go back into Microsoft 365 and then actually see that policy come back in or that profile come back into the platform. So there we go. We see it there. Advantage was the one that I restored. Now it's back in the platform. If there were users in there, we would then be able to action. But super powerful feature in the rollback actions, giving us that ability, like I said, to have that inaccessible cache to basically catch anything that could be going wrong inside of the platform and then roll those actions back. And that can go be, snapshot copies, profiles, users themselves if someone tries to delete the users and whatnot. I'll move on here to the actual ransomware recovery pieces, the pieces that are going to help us, if we do get hit with specific types of ransomware, we can look at like a quarantine bay. And what this does is works with data anomalies and the indicators of compromise library to then be able to quarantine specific resources, right? So if we wanted to go in here and find a resource, maybe it's a OneDrive. So we select data sources, we come into central group, and then we take a look and we say, okay, we wanna quarantine this person's OneDrive. So we'll click next there. We'll be able to either quarantine all of the snapshots there, or we can actually have a date range that we can select the date range that we want to quarantine those snapshots to make sure that nobody tries to recover that, because we know there's an indication that something's going wrong in here, right? You can see some of our quarantine resources here in the quarantine ranges. So we would assume that something on this file server happened between these two dates, and we don't want to then restore. The second piece is a curated snapshot. And while I'm here, I do want to mention that inside of the platform, you've always got these radio buttons here that will lead you into and give you the ability to actually look and see what that is from a standpoint, right? If I look at like the curated snapshot, I can go ahead and create a curated snapshot, and it goes along the line of same thing. We'll select OneDrive, we'll look at like the Canada SMEs, and then we'll do a OneDrive curated snapshot. What that gives us is the ability to select a date range. Maybe we'll do from, June 1st till today, and we're going to retain this golden snapshot for 15 days. What this golden snapshot is a snapshot with all of the clean files included inside of it, right? So there's malicious file scans. The malicious files will be excluded by utilizing that file scan, and then you can exclude any type of additional file extensions if you wanted to, giving you that clean copy to recover from, and taking the last known good file of every snapshot and that range, and then creating one giant restore point, right? Next piece here is the restore scan. This is just going to show us whenever we do those scans on any type of restore. So when we restore from a specific asset source, what we're going to do is do an antivirus scan. Also, we can do a file hash scan. That can be with predefined Dell published indicators of compromise, or with your own CSVs with all of the IOCs that you have. That gives you the ability to do kind of an in-depth scan as well as to do a quick scan option. Then there's some additional options here to be able to scan things inside of the or to make any scanning settings on endpoint devices or hybrid workloads, like allowing users to disable scans, or maybe if it's you want to skip the antivirus scan on recovery when you're doing an endpoint device replacement. So giving you that ability. All right. The last one here is the threat hunting ability. And what this is it allows us to take a look at a resource itself and then scan that resource over a predefined time for any of these indicators of compromise that we talked about, right? So if I take a look and kick off a new threat hunt, I can just call this test here. Once I do that, I don't have to provide a description, but I want to, maybe scan for file hashes, or I'll do a scan for file extensions, like maybe do WannaCry or do like a dot fun or something. Then we would go next. Then we can actually look at the resources themselves. We're gonna have to select like a demonstration here, but then we pick our resource that we have, like this file server. Then we pick a start date and an end date. From there, that's gonna actually go through that backup itself and then find any type of indicators of compromise in that backup snapshot that we've created. We also have the option here to do an auto quarantine of the snapshots, to where it'll automatically quarantine those snapshots if it finds any type of indicators of compromise in the platform itself. The last piece here that I want to cover is just, like I said, that IOC library. You have the ability to, like I said, use the Dell published indicators of compromise, as well as upload your own indicators of compromise that you may have. I do want to show one more kind of feature functionality piece that's really useful, is the federated search of the platform. Because we're a SaaS, solution, what we have here is we're indexing everything on the back end. So if you wanted to maybe search, for an email, which I spelled wrong, I do not delete, we can come into the email search, and then I can see, right, there's an email there from Michael Robert that says do not delete, giving us the ability to search not only email, but also files. We can also get down with the, searching the time modified, the time created, if we want to look at specific users, or anything along those lines, as well as like the email search with the subject, the recipient, same thing, specific users or specific profiles. We have the ability to do that. So I will end there. I'll put it back on the security dashboard itself, but I'll turn it back over to you, Dan.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join today. Hopefully, this was informative and gave you a good representation of how the solution works, how simple it is to operate, and from a feature standpoint, what this really delivers, which we believe is above and beyond competitors in the market substantially. As you know, in technology, uh, you can get feature rich and you can get simple, and they don't always come together in one platform. In many cases, they don't. But we believe we have a solution in PowerProtect Backup Services that answers that promise. So for anybody that would like additional info, we'll obviously send a follow-up. We thank everybody for joining today. And for those who are customers today, thank you for making the time investment. For those that are not, the same thing. And we look forward to working with everybody in the future. And thank you again.